Although global poverty is commonly discussed, many people may be unfamiliar with how it is perpetuated. It can be seen at different degrees throughout the world. In undeveloped countries, poverty may be more severe than in developed countries. This may be in part because of lack of infrastructure and available resources.
For example, in the slums of India, once you're in a slum, you're in your slum for your entire life pretty much. Um, there's not a lot of opportunity to get out of it and to improve your life and improve your standing and go do something else. So, if you're asking for something that I actually saw, an example that I saw, it's children running around covered in dirt. You can tell they haven't had, any sort of care that children here have. Just dried snot running down their noses, just in rags, just begging for food and money and anything to help them. It's heartbreaking.
I'm sure that there's programs like the United States has in other countries. I just don't know how efficient they are, I don't know how effective they are.
Here we have public clinics, public services, public everything. Even if you're homeless here in the United States, you still have access to groups that help homeless, that reach out to them. There's programs to get those people jobs. There's protection. There's so many different things, whereas back to my example of India, if you're living in a slum there, no one cares whether you live or die. There is no access to any kind of resources.
I'm comfortable with both definitions. I think you could define poverty in absolute terms. So again, if your capacity to ensure your basic health and the basic health of your loved ones is perpetually insecure because you lack the resources necessary to do that, then I think you can say that's an absolute measure of poverty, and either you're above that level or you're not. That said, I think poverty should always be looked at in relative terms, precisely because if there are persistent inequalities in a given society, the degree to which people are impoverished in absolute terms has to be considered in light of sort of the relative situation of the more poor versus the more rich in a given society.
It's absolute in the sense that it usually exists, but at the same time it exists in a relative sense. So like in the United States, poverty exists, but it's relative. So someone who is impoverished in the US could probably do pretty well in a third world country where that's what everybody has. But even in that country, some people have less than others. So like when we went to the Dominican, we went to this impoverished village called Abate, where these people of Haitian descent would come and work on the sugar mills and the sugar fields when they were in season. When they were out of season, they'd just kind of be out of work and out of money. And so the way this village was set up is there was a main road right down the center, and you would start with the wealthier people living right next to the main road. And even though they didn't have much in our standards, we thought they were poor. And then by around the third day of our trip, we actually ventured back like away from the road and just got more and more and more impoverished. And then these people back here were like the poor people. So like in our minds, everybody was poor, but in their minds, they had quite a bit more than some of the others. So.
I think it would make people a lot less selfish when they think about poverty. They wouldn't be thinking that these people are poor because they didn't try. They would be thinking that these people are poor and need our help because they need the same rights as us, and they should have the same opportunities.
Individuals can do lots of things. They can donate to charities. They can if they're an employer, they can try to hire people who might face particular challenges entering the labor market. I think there's lots of small things that each of us can do to help smooth the rough edges of the problem. But I don't think any one of us as individuals can really change the wider structural dynamic that has to come through political action.
It's important to have programs aimed towards the bigger picture and aimed towards helping these people who don't otherwise have anyone to help them or stand up for them or speak for them. At the same time, not all NGOs are good. Not all NGOs help, just as not all government programs help. But as far as the intentions of all these groups, I don't think any intentions are bad. I think you should have to look at what they're doing and the ways that they're doing it.
Well, I think as individuals, we can do small things, but it takes more people to solve something as big as poverty. So the entire community has to come together and band together, and that's totally possible. People just have to be motivated to do it.
With so many possible avenues towards solving poverty, it is difficult to know which road to take. Through poverty, human rights are violated. Is poverty simply a fact of life, or do we have a human obligation to try and solve it?